And I wish I could tell you how many times I've pulled up the wrong piece of tape, black. Now today I started off flipping the battery chargers as I usually do in the morning. Karen announced to me that I don't have a whole session today, just part of a session, but I still like to get something done. Now lucky for me, yesterday I pulled all the bodywork off the bike, got some of the masking done and ready for the backmasking. So what's nice about it, I won't have to be out in this cold shop, and it is really cold again today. And I guess that's my point is, even on days when I don't have a whole session, I always like to get something done. So as I finish my coffee, I realize it really was really lucky for me to get all this stuff done and inside. This will be a relatively easy day to work inside, even a short day. So I'm thinking what I ought to do is I ought to do some of the backmasking on this. But the first thing I have to do, and I guess I'll do one part at a time, I have to lay out this exact stripe is going to go through the tank and the seat and then down the back. So because it's a short day, I'll probably only get one or two of these parts done, but I can get that done right now. So what's really happened from my original concept sketch, well, there's going to be a little change. The change is this yellow is now going to go down here, adding a little yellow to it, but there'll still be some white. And I had sketched that out several different ways, and not knowing, of course, when I got to this part of the job, how that was going to play out. Now the problem is, this is a straight line. But imagine this, if you take a straight line, think of the equator on the globe. It's only a straight line on a round part from one angle. As you turn the angle up, it becomes a curve. And that's what happened. My vision here of the concept sketch, when I laid it out in real life, I wasn't sure I liked it. But what I decided to do is make that a black border instead of the way it was on the original concept sketch. And this is the other thing with, well, Turbo Steve, we talked about it, and that's one of the things I think we both agreed that that might be a little bit better. And having this line up with the seat, I've backmasked that out. So we're basically ready to put that stripe down the middle of the seat and the tank, and if I can get that done today on a short session, that'll be great. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to try to establish, and I'll try to figure some way of measuring it. I have a reference point just to be sure my eagle eyes are they haven't become something less than eagle eyes. But a lot of this just has to be done by eye. Oh, I don't know. Let's look at that before I even press it down. I always start with a center line. With a center line, now you have a fighting chance anyway. So I'm always looking, in this case, for reference points. I know I have these stripes at some, and that's what you will see is the stripe. So I'm measuring, and I can see I'm not really close. I'm off by a good 1/8 of an inch. So what that means is that my eyes are not as good as I thought they were. Now let me get, here's the 1/8 inch tape here, if I could find it. I know this is off an 1/8 of an inch in that direction, so why even move up the other tape? Put this one here. And I'm just showing my way of doing this. And this way has worked very well on laying out several things. These are some of the skills that you need if you're going to... Okay, that looks... Now we're right on the money now. Now we're right on the money. So that means this tape at this location is in the middle. Now I've got to do the same thing up here. I'm going to need a longer piece of paper. Right around the top. And I can see up here I'm off by a 1/2 of an 1/8 inch tape. So I know, and this is the way to do this. at least the way I know I'm doing it. And I wish there was some easy way. There probably is, that I don't know about because nobody shared it on YouTube. So now I want this piece to be here, to be measured out perfectly. And being able to lay out these center lines is a critical thing. And being able to measure it, right? You can use a ruler. I just use a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be that fancy. I'm holding this because I know this is where I want it to be. That's fine. I want that to be right there. Now I'll double check it. Right on the money. Right on the money. Famous last words. So my point is, you don't need anything more complicated than a piece of paper and a pen to figure out, and it's really an ultra critical thing to get that in the middle. Now, of course, if you don't have a reference point, in this case, this is the thing we're going to see is the stripe, and I've referenced that. I've referenced that both sides are pretty similar anyway, but this is the part that I haven't really gotten right now. I have to get, that tape has to go down in there and up under there, so that I'm going to have to do by eye. But I'm going to try to follow that line, because once I have this center line, that's going to lay out my whole stripe. And if you don't have the center line right, boy, you would not believe how obvious it is that you, when you take and you put all the clear on and buff it out, you put the bike together and the thing is off to one side. And your eye picks it up almost instantly. Now this can be in the eye of the beholder, believe me. And since we're not going to actually use this tape, it really doesn't matter. This is just to line up our stripe. Looks so easy when it's done, but until it's done, it makes you crazy. The tape goes on and off 100 times. Now, it's always a good idea, I find, to put it on the floor, hang it on the ceiling, look at it from several different angles. Now, it looks like once we have the center line, and I want to thank my friend, and he worked in my shop for over 5 years. We were kind of partnered up on a lot of projects. He taught me a lot about using center lines. Thank you, Les Demet. Now, once you're really happy using, and that you got that pretty well in the center, of course, you're never done checking this stuff. Now, this tape is coming up, so I'm just trying to make it as de-stickied as I can. Whoop. Don't have to do it in one piece. Want to get it right lined up on that line. Doing this kind of work and doing it efficiently, and that you know the biggest disappointment is when you're all done with a project and you go, ugh, something's just not right, something doesn't line up, and you think to yourself, I know I did anyway, you think, oh, nobody will ever see that, and then we go to one of the competitions and somebody go, oh, look at that, it's crooked. All right, so what this is going to do, this is just getting us the correct space. Now I've got to go down around here. I don't need to actually go all around that back curve. It's not going to serve any purpose. So I may as well make this as easy as possible. Making things as easy as possible is always a good idea, because this work can be tedious. Sometimes it can be frustrating, but boy, is it ever rewarding when you have it done. It's like cooking that great barbecue steak that you sweat and everything's not going your way, and you got to light the coals and everything, but the day you sink your teeth into that steak. All right, so now we're ready to lay out the 1/4 inch border that goes down that stripe. This might be a little tricky. I guess we're going to find out. Sometimes the hardest part of this is just finding a way to hold apart when you don't have a helper, of course. And since I try to gear everything I do around the idea that I'm working alone. Holding the parts can sometimes be challenging. And that looks like we got that pretty good. Yeah, that looks good. So now I know I've got that white stripe. Now I have to get a 1/4 inch black stripe and an 1/8 inch white stripe. And so from this point on, it can be relatively predictable. Can be. Sometime it is, sometime it isn't. By the way, the FINELINE tape, this blue FINELINE tape, as expensive as it can be, or is, I should say, it really works well. I am really impressed how nice it is. But I would always suggest, when you're taking it off, warm it with a hairdryer. That's the one lesson I've learned, that it seems to always pay dividends. Now we've got a corner. We want to work around this corner because we have to go around this curve that's going that way. So now this piece is coming out. This is just to set my next layer of tape up. So, but I think once you see, I think you only have to see the laying out of center lines, the laying out of your design, the laying. Once you watch it, you can do some pretty nice stuff. It's, other than the cost of the tape, you can just go crazy with it until you're happy with it. Now, I know this piece is coming out, so I'm not going to make myself crazy about it. But I need to set the next piece up. So I'm always thinking one piece ahead, and then I'll triple, quadruple check, because every once in a while, an example is, I lay this out and I say that's going to be that color. That color is going to, this is going to be yellow. It's going to go around here, out here. This is going to be white. This stripe's going to be black. Da, da, da. I don't want to get confused, and it's really easy to get confused. And whenever you have tape on an inside radius like this, it's always going to want to have a tendency to pull up. And since this is an angle this way, the tape wants to walk this way. So again, I have to make perfectly straight every time I add a layer of tape, that I'm not walking out and making this crazy looking corner here. Because one of the defining features of the stripe is it does go right around the corner. Unlike a sticker, if this were a sticker, you'd just be able to go up to here and maybe down to the back. You'd never be able to come and go around corners. I always like to double check my work. This is going to be the end of the black. This stripe will be white. This will be black. That's why I have the fender already painted. That'll be white. So having that part already painted, and then I will check. I'll make a little template across here. Make sure I haven't screwed anything up. You think you'd never be able to screw this up? I've screwed plenty of stuff up. And all it means is you got to repaint it, but I'd like not to do that if I don't have to. Now just to replicate everything we did over here, same amount of tape on that side, and we'll be ready to pull up our stripe. A little useful tip: when you're putting these stripes on, you have to be careful not to stretch it. It's very like a rubber band, because then if you do stretch it, what happens? It'll pull away from the edge and pull away from all the inside corners. Or here, it'll just make it that your corners are not nice. Well, we're trying not to let that happen, but you want to pull on at the minimum amount of tension, especially. And this tape really isn't. Once you get comfortable working with it. But boy, I've gone through a lot of tape in the last week, and it's been fun using it. Point in time, the fun begins. I added all these up. I checked the yellow fender. We're exactly where we should be. So I'm going to get the heat gun. Oh, I got the hairdryer out here already. It shows you what I know. Always be prepared. We'll be prepared for what? Famous line from The Lion King. Be prepared. We'll be prepared for what? For pulling up tape. Now I'm trying to pull it up slow and with a little bit of heat. I don't want to leave any of that gummy residue on the part. Now we've got this black one comes up. See, here's where you get a problem. You got to start figuring out which one to pull up and which one not to pull up. And I wish I could tell you how many times I've pulled up the wrong piece of tape. Black, that's going to be a white stripe, black, and a white stripe. It's all part of the high IQ test. Keep that tape warm. Another little thing I do, I just try to tape these loose ends, because what will happen, and press them down along the way, because what will happen is every once in a while, one of these, they're under tension, of course. If they're under tension going this way, it's no problem. When they're going through a reverse curve, this just keeps them from flying up into the paintwork. Once you got everything back masked, sometimes you don't even notice it. Now I got to decide how I want to end this. With this is a black stripe. I guess I'll just end the black stripe right there, and that'll make that easy. Now I even cheated. I had an extra cup of coffee here because I could not figure out how I wanted to end this stripe. I wanted the stripe, just like it does on the 750, to go right through. And this is a black stripe, and I guess it's got to end at the white stripe. I'm not sure. I guess we're going to figure that out. We're going to see how we like it. But the nice thing, mention one other thing. The nice thing about doing any of this work is like paint. You can always take it off and do it over. It's not like when you take a acetylene torch and cut the back off a frame to make a cafe racer. This, in a half hour, I can have all the tape off and turn it into something else. Now, it's a personal thing, of course, but I know if I made this stripe any thinner, it would not have the look I want. I know if I made it any wider, it would start to look, because I've already laid that out in tape several times, but I think I got the right balance, because this now, the next time we get to work on this, that stripe's going to have to go right through the gas tank. But that's why I experimented with the fender, tested the paint on the fender, because in the worst of all worlds, it's paint or tape. You can always take it right off. Now, I checked the weather. It's still unpaintable out there. It's drizzling and drooling and everything. So what I decided to do here is I get this part ready for what I hope is going to be the next paintable day. Even if I can get one part at a time done, it doesn't matter. I'm still ahead of the game. I wanted to thank Walt Prey, as I always do, the late Walt Prey, for teaching me, as so many people have shared information with me, the skills that I have. And you can evaluate yourself whether I have any or not. Those skills were shared by other people, most of them modelers. And from that world of modeling, I was able to, and in fact, I spoke to Dave Midgley today, and we were talking about, one of the funny things is he's running a big business, and I have no income at all. So I guess he's the winner there. But anyway, the thing was, we both learned a lot of what we learned from modeling. Now this is one trick, not going to belabor this again, but by putting a tin foil on, if I rub this down here, and the idea is to keep as much of the tape as possible. In a perfect world, you wouldn't have any tape. But because that tape, no matter what brand of tape you use, and I'll do a little talk about tape at the end of this, I want to backmask this off first. And it shows, let me show this up close. I don't even want to do a camera cut here. I want to show this. It leaves a little impression. Not sure you can see it. So now I can trim this about 1/8 of an inch back, and I have the perfect piece of tin foil in there. Trim it with a razor, and usually you have to use a brand new razor to get a nice trim. Now by backmasking, this is a complex thing, because all I want to expose is what's going to be black, 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 and this thin stripe. So I've got a lot of little strips of backmasking to do to get this to be exactly the way I want it. And I want as little of the tape showing as possible. Now we're all backmasked up here, but it's still drizzling and drooling out there, so I'm not going to even think about compromising the paint on this. And I was thinking about this. Maybe I'll use the airbrush on this, but again, I'll figure that out when the time comes. That backmasking trick has worked well for me many years. Allowed me to do some pretty exotic model airplane paint jobs. But I wanted to share one other thing before we end this video, and it's something that you might find very interesting. You'll certainly find it informative. I thought I'd share this tape. Oh, now, this is the reason I'm doing this little demo. A lot of my friends and people that are new to looking at my channel, and we're coming up on 4,400 subscribers, so somebody out there must be bored watching this. But anyway, there's good information. What happened years and years and years ago, and I'm going back 50 years, in the world of model planes, you couldn't find out anything. Everything was a secret. There was no YouTube. There was no internet. If you wanted to figure something out, you had to figure it out on your own or whatever. Well, here's what happened with tape, and I think it's super interesting. When we were painting model planes and painting motorcycles both, we had two choices. And I'm going back a lot of years, maybe into the 70s. But you basically had two choices. I even have a new roll of it. The choice one was to take ordinary masking tape, ordinary, which really was super sticky. It'd pull paint off, it'd pull balsa wood off, it'd pull aluminum up. And what you would always do, you'd rub it on a clean shirt, then you lay this out on a piece of glass and take a ruler and cut 1/8" strips. And use those 1/8" strips to make your paint job or to do your lettering outline. So that was step one. Now a lot of people, the younger people of course, have never had to do that. So anyway, starts with masking tape. As years went by, it evolved into all kinds of other that you could buy tape. This was one of the things years ago that I used, and it's kind of a plastic fine line of some kind, 3M tape. It made a little bit nicer edge because it was vinyl. But again, this is really, I don't know how to describe how this is for people that you've never experienced this stuff. If you went to bend it around a corner, it immediately wrinkled. It was a nightmare. But anyway, you can see I've literally used hundreds of rolls in 50 years. Many rolls. Then we all tried with some success, a lot of people, and going back to the world of modeling, these vinyl tapes that were made to wrap electrical wires. And you could use this, and sometime it'd pull up the paint, sometime it wouldn't. Then 3M came out with real masking tape that was cut in 1/8 and 1/4 inch. The only problem with this is you never got a really nice edge. Now, one of the tricks you would always use in model planes, we don't use it in motorcycling, you'd lay out this crappy tape, take a very tiny brush and put clear paint. It's called clear dope butyrate or a nitrate along the edge. And it would seal the edge so that what leaked under the tape was clear. Well, we don't have to do that anymore for a good reason. This is even better than the original masking tape. Better, but still nowhere near the edge you get with the blue. So after using this on the last several jobs, I went out and spent a little under $100 on maybe 10 or 15 rolls of tape. I've only got 4 left because I've been using it up on various projects. It's worked well. Now, a couple of tips I have found over the years. In fact, I better get a new sandwich bag. Once you open a roll of tape, tape comes sealed. It's sealed for a reason. It has a shelf life. The glue dries out, and then it leaves that residue down on the part that you're trying to make immaculately clean before you put the clear on. So what I would always do is when I was done with a roll of tape, a half a roll, whatever kind of tape, even our blue tapes, put everything in it. You can tell I need a new sandwich bag. Being homeless has its disadvantages. But anyway, I wanted to end this by saying, this, the best I've ever found. It's a little pricey sometimes. It really works well. It bends nice. It has a nice edge. The downsides are you don't want to stretch it any more than you have to. And if you pull it up, I always say about the 3rd or 4th time, just put a new piece of tape down so it doesn't bleed out under the edge. Now, we're going to find out if we ever get a paintable day here. We get around here, you never know. You're lucky if you get a paintable hour. Now, I have a friend that's a professional house painter that told me, I haven't tried it yet, try frog tape. Oh my God, you can paint around doors and mold. Well, you can see, I haven't had to paint a house yet, but I was going to try this, you know, on some project. But you can see I've got wide tape, narrow tape. Another thing, if you buy 3M wide tape, there's a code on it. I'm trying to find a code, multi-use, this use, la 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 la. Anyway, but somewhere in here it tells you how sticky the tape is and what to use it for. And believe me, the difference between some of these 3M tapes, you can tow a car with them, and some of them you can't. And some of them are made to come up easy. Some of them leave a nice edge, some don't. The trick is, as I always do, buy whatever floats your boat and try it on the smallest part. Always paint the smallest part first and see how that works out. And of course, the biggest thing of all we use for changing tires, good old-fashioned Gorilla Tape. And as I found out the hard way the last time I changed a tire, the silver Gorilla Tape, I did my own corporate analysis. I don't think this is as strong as this. Who the hell knows why? And who knows if I really am doing the test correctly. All in the eye of the beholder, but we do have, I purposely one time bought one of every, it was in Lowe's, and they had some real sticky, basically sticky, I don't even know where the hell, there was a code on it where you could tell. Oh, here it is. It tells you how adhesive it is. Well, but there's no substitute for just doing your own test. Anyway, interesting information. And from having talked to Dave today, I thought I'd share another thing. Most of my friends, some of my friends, maybe only a few, I don't know anymore, but we all grew up building model planes and competing with them on a national and international level. Now what happens is, the skills that you need to build these planes and design them and go for everything, in the world of model planes, you can't buy an airplane. You have to make it. It's called the builder to model rule. So what happens is you learn how to do things that average people don't really need to know how to do. And that's how I learned a lot of the stuff that I've learned over the years, along with Dave Midgley, John Pothier, everybody. And what was good about it is because we had no YouTube back then and no internet kind of things, we all got to be intimate friends because we shared knowledge. Joe Adamusco and John Cafaro and people from all over the world. It made for a unique thing, but we all learned from each other. And because we have so many new subscribers, I don't think a lot of people have ever seen the model planes that I built. I'm going to share a minute or two from the models I have left over from my 50-plus year career in model airplanes. In the cockpit details. Now, I did this for a real long time, and the reason I'm sharing this with people who probably, they're riding motorcycles, they have no interest in this, but people restoring things need a set of skills, and it's a set of skills you'll learn very quickly when you're a modeler, especially if you want to be a competitive modeler. And I tried to be as competitive as I could. These planes all were built from scratch. There are no kits. All the lettering. This lettering is all done with that 1/8" tape that I showed. This is a classic design from the 50s. But I wanted to show, these are the skills and the use of tape that a typical modeler would learn this. When you're going to restore a motorcycle, it's nice to have these skills, but somebody has to share them with you. So here's another example of the lettering, the outlining of the lettering, and the white is outlined in ink. So now, the reason I'm getting at this is a skill set that I brought to the table and I'm trying to share in the motorcycling world. I've already shared it in the modeling world, but needless to say, a lot of people that ride motorcycles, and not always, these are things when you say, well, how did you learn how to do that? Or, you know, Dave Midgley and I learned a lot together. We worked together. We worked with Big Jim Greenaway, and we all shared information very well. And everybody had a skill set they brought to the table, but there's some really high-tech stuff. Now, the other thing I wanted to share is there's models here that I designed. This is one of them, this B-25. Charlie refuses to come to my house. Charlie Ducati and see this is the B25 model. That's probably my favorite model of all time. It's named after the Tuskegee Airmen, one of the models of the red-tailed devils that they flew. But here's the whole point of everything. All of this is a skill you have to learn if you want to be a modeler. And if you want to restore older motorcycles, it really helps. And I hope I've been able to pass on some of that information in the last 1,300 videos. So we're back in the shop after talking about tape. A little show and tell about our modeling career, illustrious modeling career. And we're going to be picking this up on the next video, or as soon as it stops raining, and trying to share some more of those skills that we learned over a whole lifetime. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. And thanks for keeping these old motorcycles restored. And when you get to ride them, ride the hell out of them. They really are fun to ride. Thanks for watching.